he just started doing everything outpatient, and he just figured out a way to make sure. And what we figured out is, like, safety wise, we didn't have what we thought was going to happen. Like, our fear has always been, if we send people home right away, we don't follow, we don't do a whole day of fluids or whatever, like bad stuff's going to happen. But what we figured out is we have them come back in the morning. We do fluids in the office. Like, there were ways to figure it out. Now there's some financial incentive for us not to go outpatient, but we at least got some data surrounding safety. And also that I think right now our safety rating is close to that of like a hysterectomy. And so they do those outpatient.
Guess what, guys?
We're not doctors.
No, we are not.
If you're going to be making any major medical decisions, please consult your doctor.
That includes diets, exercise, medications, and surgery.
We love you guys.
And we want you to continue to be in our OSLP family forever.
So be careful and consult your doctors. Guys, we all need our vitamins after surgery, regardless of what you think.
Yes.
It's a must.
Yes. So why not choose the easiest and the best tasting in the community?
Seriously, it's ProCare, guys. ProCare is so delicious. I use their chewable for over a year. That's how I know.
Yes. And I love their capsules.
Yes.
Love them. They're once a day. I take them at night. Easy peasy. And my labs are fantastic.
Yeah, our labs are great. And I've actually switched to the capsules and I take those at night now. So if you guys need your iron, they have them with iron and they have them iron free. They even have calcium chews.
Yes, the calcium chews, perfect. They have mocktail ones, chocolate. They have also some caramel and a cinnamon roll.
They're freaking delicious. So go over to procarenow.com and use our code OSLP to save some money.
Prepping and measuring your food post-op is a beast all in itself. But Portion Perfection has actually made it super, super simple. They have bowls, plates, and even a lunch bag called the Kit and Carry where you can have all of the system ready to go.
Yeah, we love carrying that thing around with us. It's so much easier to pack your lunch, your snacks, especially when you're on a road trip. That thing is a lifesaver.
Yes.
So if you want to get these things to help your journey, just go over to portionperfection.com and use our code 15OSL pod. And again, that's 15 OSL pod. And you can also go over to our Amazon storefront to pick out any of those that you would like to use.
All know how difficult post-op life can be.
Yeah, it's pretty freaking hard, guys.
Yes. And so a way to make it a little bit easier is by joining the T.R.I.B.E membership program. It has been created by a registered dietitian. She's actually the sleeve dietitian on Instagram. Her name is Jamie. And she's created this whole membership program just to support us.
Yeah, like we've had her on the podcast. We love her to freaking death. And then two, like she has full experts in their field that help you. And they've had bariatric surgery, almost every one of them.
Yes.
And the sleeve dietitian is freaking smart because she has almost a support group every single day, guys.
Yes.
You're going to get an email. It's going to tell you which ones are for today. And you can just sign up and hang out with people that are just like you. And I've even used the journal prompts. I'm into journaling, and that was way helpful to just go somewhere that can help you and just get your mind going.
Yes.
So if you need this kind of support, which a lot of us do, go to her website and use our code OSLP at checkout to get your discount.
Now we're doing a big trip and neither of us have anybody going with us. So weird. I'm just ready to be in a whole new state and working. That's all I want. I just want to focus on working.
Right. That's 2023 is just work.
Yep. To make money.
Yep.
So we can afford to live in the same house for the rest of our lives.
That's not going to happen.
No, it will not. But
because we need to be able to work forever together.
Yes.
That's the ultimate goal, right?
Yep.
Is just to be able to do this and all the things together forever. Forever and ever.
Yeah, because we have to.
Should we just wait till exactly 2?
We can.
And see if I get any response. So,
I mean, does it really matter?
not really actually at this point because I got everything out.
Yeah.
So
You cried. You wrote it all out. You're good.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no reason.
Like we both know where each other stand.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess I still know where he stands.
That's fine, but you put him in a spot, so he's gonna sit in that box.
That's true. Put him in a box. That's where you get to hang out.
That's actually one of the things Cole told me right after Cody left, when she was still staying with me for that couple of days. She said one of the best advice that her mom ever got was put everything in a box, like a mental box.
Okay.
That has to do with the divorce, unless it's like you
Oh,
have
like
to
the
take
whole
care of it.
compartmentalizing thing?
Yeah, you just put it in a box, close the lid, and when you feel like you're mentally stable enough to handle it, then you can open the box and look through it.
Yeah.
But until then, just
keep it close.
Yep, just put it in that box and close the lid every time.
Yeah.
And
there you go.
I mean, that's what I did for a long time. I just put it in that box.
Put it in the box.
Put it in the box and leave it there.
All right. You ready?
Yeah. Is it 2?
It's 2. I don't even know what she looks like.
I don't either. So what's that?
Let's just do this. Yeah.
We haven't done an interview in so long.
Yes, we have. We just did Friendly.
Yeah, that's not really. We knew what he looked like.
You mean new people?
Uh-huh.
The new people.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I am good. How are you?
We're good.
We're great.
Yeah.
We're just chugging along over here.
Getting
I
prepared.
know. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
You too.
Yes, we're both ready for 2023.
Yes, we are.
Agreed.
Agreed. 2022 was a shitstorm. So
Yeah, it kind of was. Yep.
like personally, shitstorm. Work, amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yep.
Probably are in the same boat there too.
Awesome. I
That's
love
so
it.
funny.
All right. Well, you haven't been on the podcast yet. So
yes.
there's a little housekeeping stuff. So I'm going to clap so that way I can pair everything together.
Mm-hmm.
So 1 second. Boom. Okay.
And then we're gonna do our intro to the episode, and then we're gonna talk a little bit about our Patreon, our YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Should probably throw in the East Coast tour,
Of course.
also,
yeah.
and then we'll bring you on. And do you just want us to introduce you as Ashlyn? How would you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I just go by my first name, even professionally. We don't use I'm not a doctor, so we don't use Dr. Douglass-Barns or anything.
Okay.
My last name is long. So is there anything specific you guys want to talk about?
Really touch on your journey, how you became a therapist, your weight loss surgery journey, how you became a therapist, how that intermingled, how you got into bariatrics as a therapist, and then also
the fact that you train
bariatric therapists.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is I just wanted to double check it was okay for me to talk about that because there is a sales aspect of that. So sometimes I don't bring it up because it's something that I sell.
Okay.
But as long as you guys are cool with it, obviously it's not a sales pitch, but it's just to let other, I know for me, if I had known there was another therapist that had done all this, I would have wanted to do the training through them because I would have known they had some, backing on it. So I will mention that and wanted to make sure that was okay.
Definitely. Yes. We definitely want to hear about that part because that's very interesting to us because we don't get a lot of therapists on the show. So I think it's a cool aspect for you.
Oh yeah. It's a whole different angle.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. And then
we're a teeny tiny subset of therapists, an even smaller subset of those who are bariatric therapists who've had bariatric surgery themselves.
Yes. Yeah.
There's not a ton of us. So.
No, there's not. I think we've only interviewed one other one.
Yeah.
So.
Is it just Tab?
Oh, no, I guess Tab is one too.
Yeah, Tab's one too.
Yeah, I forget about. I just think of her as a.
It's because we met her after surgery.
Yeah.
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 So it's hard to see her as a patient.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So Mel will count us down for 5 seconds and then we'll do our intro and then introduce you.
Yeah. And then at the end, all of us will say bye to the audience, but stay on.
Yeah. We're not saying bye to you.
And then we'll talk a little bit afterwards about when it airs and all those things.
Yeah.
So is there anything off the table that you don't want us to talk about?
No, if we get into skin removal, I probably won't talk about the fact that I had breast implants, but I did. I'll talk about probably all my other skin removal. If we get into that, not really. I'm even in therapy. I'm pretty, I would tell a client I had breast implants. I don't give a shit, but you know, through the World Wide Web, I don't need, you know, a guy being like, ooh, I want to come see. I don't know. Come see her.
You never know.
You never know.
People are weird.
So,
yes.
But no, otherwise, no, you guys, I'll probably talk about my husband and, you know, all personal stuff. I'm not one of those therapists. It's like a blank.
Yeah.
Cool. I like it.
That's what we need.
All right.
You ready?
I am ready.
Does everyone take drinks? She's taking a drink.
I'm good.
I want to take one too.
Yep.
Okay. And if I'm sick, so I might randomly cough. Just keep going. Don't stop for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome back, OSLP family. Yeah. Welcome. That sounded really weird, Kellie.
It did sound really weird, but we're going to go with it. So you are listening to our Sleeve Life podcast, and this is Kellie.
This is Mo.
And as
went out already.
Yep, went out. Yep, she's sick. So I'm going to keep going. We, of course, always like to remind you in the beginning of these episodes of any tour dates that we have.
And we have some.
We have 3.
Yes.
We don't have just one. We have 3.
I'm going to bring them up. I'm so stoked.
We are doing a East Coast tour, and we are so excited to meet everybody out there.
Yes, we are.
So we are going to be in Orlando on
February 11th.
And then we will move to Philly
on February 18th.
And what's really cool is in Orlando, we're going to have Miss Jamie.
Miss Jamie, the sleep dietitian.
She is going to be doing the live show with us. And then in Philly, we are going to have Dad Rob, which everybody loves. I mean, you can't not.
And if you don't know who that is My Weight is History on Instagram. You guys should go follow him. Like he's the fucking best. He's one of my favorites.
Yes, he's a teacher and he is also a dad and a husband. And he has gone through a huge transition.
Yeah, a huge. And then our last one is going to be in Brooklyn, which I'm so stoked. OSLP in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Holy shit. And that's going to be February 25th.
Yes.
And we just confirmed.
Yes.
With John.
Yes. So John, J.R.B.S. is going to be on the live show with us. So we cannot wait to talk more to each of them about it at the live shows. Now, this is a very exclusive tour dates.
Yeah, because there's not a lot of room.
Yes.
So there's about like 20 to 30 tickets depending on which section we're at.
Yes.
The link is actually available right now for you to go get your tickets before they're all sold out. So go now.
It is going to be on our website. So there will be a section at the top that says tour dates. And then you go and you click on that.
And just pick one that's near you.
Your ticket. Yep.
Yeah. And I'll have that just in the description below.
Yes, we will have all those links below also. So the second thing is, if you didn't know, we do have a Patreon.
We do.
And that is where you get exclusive content from us. And then we also, of course, have our Facebook support group, which is called the Winner's Bench.
Yes.
We fondly call them the Benchies. And it is a really fun group of people. It is all positive people. We do not allow negativity or false information in our group. We very closely monitor it, and we have several very cool admins that also monitor and answer questions.
Which we love them for that.
Yes. So if you would like to go be a part of the Benchies or help support us and get bonus content at the same time, that address is patreon.com/OSLP.
Yeah. And that's any tier $7 or higher. You do get like monthly Zooms with us. And that's what she said, corner episodes.
Yes.
So just know there is a little more out there for you. So, and then I think the last thing is the YouTube, right?
Yeah. We have a YouTube if you didn't know. And if you were on our YouTube, you would know who we're talking to now. Because you would be able to see them and us.
They're patiently waiting. We love it. We appreciate them.
Yes.
And who do we have, Cal?
Well, First off, if you go to our YouTube, type in Our Sleeve Life Podcast. We are the only ones. Click subscribe and that little bell to get notified when future videos drop.
Yes.
Now, Mel, you can introduce our wonderful guest.
I know. We have Miss Ashlyn on.
Yes.
She is a bariatric therapist that had bariatric surgery.
And she actually trains other bariatric therapists. So we are super excited to hear from you. So thanks for being on the show, Ashlyn.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you guys. And I'm excited to know you're going to be in Orlando. That's actually where I am from. So I'm going to have to make sure I block off February 11th so I can join you guys.
Yes. That's amazing.
Oh my gosh. I'm so excited now.
You can come.
Even more excited.
Yes.
I was already excited. Yay. So when did your bariatric journey start? Did it start after you were a therapist? How did that come about?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, so I'd struggled with my weight. I'm kind of one of those classic PCOS stories.
Okay.
You hit 12, you blow up. They throw everything at you. No one knows what to do.
Mm-hmm.
This was like 90s, early 2000s.
Okay.
So PCOS wasn't quite a thing yet.
Mm-hmm.
No one knew what to do, but like diet. So I think I started Weight Watchers at like 11, 12.
Wow.
Atkins was the thing back then, carb counting, those kind of things. And so I went along for a while and I was super active. I was in sports, but always heavy and always had that kind of what a lot of people have, that like nothing beyond this, that weight, that like magic weight where you can't go below no matter how much you restrict.
Yes.
Yep.
And so kind of like fast forward to like, I went to school to be a social worker. I'm getting my master's degree. And I got a job in Jacksonville and I started seeing a PCOS specialist over there finally.
Okay.
And he ran a insulin and a glucose test. So he did 2 hours where he looked at both, which no one had ever looked at. And he got the results and he's like, I've never seen insulin so high. I'm going to discharge you because this isn't safe. I don't know what to do. I'm going to send you to my personal endocrinologist. And I'm like, okay, feeling very loved by that. Not so much. So went to his personal endocrinologist. He said, you'll become a diabetic. We'll deal with it then. Your pancreas isn't going to hold out much longer. So I said, well, I'm not going to accept that answer. And so I kind of bounced around and eventually ended up at the Mayo Clinic because I happen to live in Jacksonville.
Okay.
And so I saw this very lovely student resident who had just finished doing some kind of study about weight loss surgery and preventative diabetes, which was kind of like not a thing yet.
Okay.
And she had mentioned it to the endocrinologist, and the endocrinologist is like, well, we have no other options. So that sounds like a good idea. We'll refer her to the bariatric clinic. And so I got referred to the bariatric clinic. And at that time, my insurance required a year program.
Wow.
So I met with, and it was good. I appreciated it for what it was. So I went through that year-long program, and then I had gastric bypass in 2012, June 20th. But kind of coinciding with becoming a therapist. So I'd finished grad school. I had started doing some work, and I worked for the health department. And I do remember there was kind of this one pivotal day. I was working with high-risk pregnant women and new moms. So some kind of high-risk psychosocial. And this mom looked at me and she's like, you came in my house to tell me to take care of myself, and you don't look like you took care of yourself a day in your life.
Oh, shit.
And I remember thinking, I could see why you would think that. Like, little did she know I was like, working my ass off trying to figure this out. But I do remember thinking, how am I going to work with people where I really am asking them, to focus on their own health when I'm really not focusing on my own health.
Yeah.
And so kind of all of that coincided. And that's when I had bariatric surgery. And it really resolved all of my PCOS issues and really most of my health issues pretty rapidly. My insulin and glucose have normalized. And so most of my PCOS related symptoms have normalized. And I've kept the weight off now for over 10 years.
Wow, that's
So-
impressive.
That's very good.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And I will say, and one of the things that I love about your podcast is you're so open about a lot of things. I have had the help of a GLP-1, particularly in the past year. I'm actually on Ozempic. I started on Wegovy and ended up on Ozempic.
Okay.
After I had a little bit of a regain and then kind of came back down to kind of where I normally sit.
Can you explain to our listeners what that is, what you just said?
The GLP-1.
Yes,
Yeah.
a GLP-1. So there's a whole bunch of hormones and different aspects of obesity. And one of the ones that we think is heavily connected to obesity, particularly how your brain processes hunger and talks to your pancreas, is GLP-1. And so it's a type of hormone that tells your brain to eat or stimulate so that your pancreas creates insulin. And so there's a belief that, which I think is pretty closely connected with me, at least in my history, that GLP-1 is a big part of obesity. And so for a lot of people, the GLP-1 medications, that's Byetta, Ozempic, and I'm speaking to this as a patient, not as a therapist, because I don't give medical advice as a therapist.
That's right.
But Ozempic, Wegovy, Manjora, those are all the GLP-1s. And back in the day, we used to use more like Byetta, but now we have longer acting, better ones.
Yes.
And so that is one tool of the many tools that I've had over the 10 years that has helped in that maintenance. So
nice.
How long?
I guess so, like full disclosure.
How long have you been on the GLP-1?
So in the past, I've used Sedaxa and Victoza and Byetta.
Okay.
Maybe about 6 years ago.
Oh.
The issue I had is it started working and then stopped working. The Wegovy Ozempic is the only one that I've had this long, and I've been on it for about a year.
Okay.
Actually, no, a little over a year.
Okay.
And currently using it for maintenance. So it's a low dose maintenance versus, so I'm not looking for weight loss at this point. I'm just looking for stability.
Yeah.
But it is really helped me personally and had in the past. So I wasn't surprised that it helped again.
Yeah. Because I'm on Mounjaro right now and I've seen a huge difference. And so I was curious because I'm like, I don't really know how long I can stay on this. So I'm like, because I'm in the middle of it. I'm almost to 20 pounds down. And so I've got about another 20 that I'd like to lose ideally, but then it's like, it's changed so much of my day to day of just being able to focus and like, it's taken me out of that like hamster wheel. So I was interested to know, like, can you go to a lower dose?
So according to the doctor that I'm working with, I probably will need to be on it lifelong.
Okay.
It's just part of my body's chemistry. So I think that we are just being at the ASMBS conference of the American Society of Metabolic and Bariatric Surgery. That's kind of our governing body. We're talking more and more about it and how that's a part of bariatric surgery and probably part of the future of how we deal with obesity as a whole. So I think that we've come such a long way from Byetta. So Byetta back in the day used to take 2 hours before 2 major meals. So you took it all day, every day, and it was really not very convenient and a lot more side effects. Where now with the once a week, it's been, I agree with you. It just takes it off my brain. I don't think about it at night. I don't think about food at night. I'm doing something else. It's not on my mind. It's very much feels like a miracle drug, which I don't want to put it out there because it doesn't work like that for everybody. But for me, that has been such a game changer in just being able to live my life. And that's kind of a hard thing to explain sometimes, but it also helps me understand that it's not just a willpower issue. There's something really chemically going on that's part of what's causing this issue, and that it's something very chemically that can help change that or put it back to where I need it to be, which part of why we know that GLP-1 is helpful is that's what bariatric surgery, particularly bypass, endoadrenal switch, and SADI, impact GLP-1 the most. And so we know that. So sometimes when I have clients that have had good success on one of those and they're heading into bariatric surgery, that kind of gives us a clue that bariatric surgery may be really helpful for them, because we already know that GLP-1 is probably part of their obesity, like the puzzle that is obesity. And so that's really interesting sometimes too, where I'll have someone, maybe they're down 75 pounds, they have another, 200 to go. So it makes sense for them to kind of move forward with bariatric surgery, even though the GLP-1 has been so successful. But it kind of gives us a clue sometimes too, that there's other things at play. And I think that that's helpful for clients to know sometimes, that it isn't just willpower. There's like insulin resistance. There's chemical stuff that's going on too. That's part of what's happening. So I kind of from a psychological.
That's so pivotal, especially for myself, because I've battled my willpower for my entire life. I've always told myself, why did you eat that? Why do you need it? You don't need that. You are trying to eat healthy. Like, it's that constant narrative that I've had in my head of like, I don't have strong enough willpower to not eat what's on the counter. And to find out that maybe it's not willpower, maybe it is a chemical imbalance that is within myself that I never knew I had.
Yeah.
And that's why I literally took this medication and it changed my life in a very short amount of time. It's only been not even on Friday,
months?
it'll be 2 months since I started it. And so that, like, you got me. You got me right there. It's like, that's what I've been feeling. And it's sometimes hard to describe it.
And it's awesome as a therapist, because then even when people come in and they say, when I'm doing their evaluation, they're like, Ashlyn, I just don't know, how am I going to be successful when I haven't been able to be successful in the past? And it's like, because that's not the whole picture.
Right.
Like, willpower is a piece of this, but the chemical part of your pancreas telling your brain. So part of insulin resistance is your pancreas puts out a whole bunch of insulin at night. So you're not up, you're not eating, you're not doing anything, you're sleeping. You're supposed to get a snack at night, but it'll put out a buffet of insulin, and then you don't need it, so you store it. So for a lot of my clients, they're like, well, I wake up kind of nauseous and then I can not eat for like 6 or 7 hours and I feel fine, but I can't do that in the middle of the day. That's insulin resistance. Your body put out way too much insulin that made you nauseous. You have plenty of insulin, so you're not hungry. But then if you try to go in the afternoon, 4 or 5 hours, you can't, because that insulin was from overnight. And so that's the cycle. So I'll even have clients come in and they'll be like, I'm a food addict, and I'll assess, and I'm like, that's not food addiction at all. That's your body responding to your, all the insulin that it needs to do something. So that's why you're craving the sweets. That's why your body is responding to all of that chemical, all that insulin. It's like, well, let's do something. Let's party, eat something. So we can do something with it.
Yeah.
And so instead it just stores it into fat. So, and that's particularly that abdominal fat. So sometimes too, people will walk in and I'm like, oh, that's insulin resistance. Cause there's also like a body shape. It's my body. It's apple on toothpicks. So thin legs, all middle. That's me. I had so many endocrinologists that were like, have you ever been tested? I'm like, Cushing's disease. Yes, I have, but I'll do it again for you. Cause Cushing's disease has a look to it. And that was the look that I had. I had really thin legs and like apple, all middle.
Wow.
So
that makes sense.
That is and I was like looking at Mel, because literally as you're describing it, that's what I have.
Yep.
Like even as a smaller body type that I thought was fat, growing up, like I always had nice legs, but I always had fat around, and it maybe not as the extent of an apple until I started really gaining weight, because my legs were never like chubby until this last regain. Yeah. I feel like. And then
my legs look better pre-surgery than they do right now.
Oh my gosh. Like that's wild. So true. That's so true.
Funny.
And then also the addiction, as you're saying, like not an addiction, but like my drive towards
feeling
sweets.
like it.
Yeah. I felt like I had no control, and I would go into the kitchen and I would get chocolate. Like, it's not like I'm going towards salami and cheese.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going towards Oreos, Nutty Buddies, like whatever I can get that's like that sweet feeling, which is funny because like Mel, she'll talk about it, but hers is like carbs.
It's all carbs.
She wants that savory aspect. Yeah.
I want that buttery goodness.
Yeah. And I'm like, you hand me anything chocolate, anything that has a huge amount of sugar, and I'm all for it.
Part of why I ended up seeking out more on the medical side is I had a coworker. So in addition to my private practice, I run a nonprofit. And so I manage all the other therapists. The therapist next to me had a little bowl of candy in her office. And I just thought about that candy all day long.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, in between this next client, when she comes out, and I was like, this is crazy. This is crazy. And you can't be thinking about. And so at that point I had gone in and my doctor's like, well, why don't we try Contrave? And I'm like, okay, we'll try it. This is a couple years ago. So before some of the GLP ones, and it is a little successful, but not really. Yeah, but I remember thinking like, is this an addiction?
Yeah.
Is this how, and I went back to my endocrinologist. He's like, Ashlyn, this is not, he's like, your insulin must be out of control again. Like, we just need to get you on the right medication. And I'm like, ugh. And part of it too, is I became allergic to metformin. And that was part of the thing that caused kind of the cascade here. So when I went to see that PCOS specialist, part of the reason that I went to see them was because I became randomly anaphylactically allergic to metformin. And I didn't believe it because I thought that was dumb. I'd been on it forever.
Yeah.
And I started taking it again and had an anaphylactic reaction to it.
Oh my God.
And that was the problem that the endocrinologists were having, because they're like, well, there is nothing else at the time besides metformin. So we don't know what to give you. If we give you Actos, you'll, at the time, that was kind of a diabetes med, you'll probably gain weight. And that probably wouldn't be good. And so that again kind of led to that, like, this is your last option, which is so interesting because we've shifted so much in that, which has been so great amongst professionals, that this is not a last ditch effort. This doesn't have to be like you've done absolutely everything and nothing, you don't have to be at the absolute end of things. You don't have to be diabetic. Like, we can be preventing things. My age has definitely come down on who's having bariatric surgery, which is awesome because we're preventing some of the long-term complications of obesity. Yes. And that was my thing. I didn't want to become diabetic. Yeah. I wanted to prevent diabetes. Yes. And so that was kind of a foreign concept back then. It was like, well, you gotta, and I think my surgeon told, I was the youngest person they'd ever done surgery on. And he had no idea. I remember he told me, he's like, I have no idea what's going to happen. I don't know how you're going to lose weight. I don't know.
Because how old were you again?
So I was 24 when I started and 26, I think, when I actually, I was 25 when I actually had surgery.
Okay.
Which is still reasonably young.
Yeah.
And especially then.
Yeah. Yeah. Because 10 years ago, you got to think how.
Well, because I'm going to be 8 years out. And I had mine when I was 27.
Okay.
Yeah. So right around there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting that a surgeon would say, I don't know what's going to happen.
I know. It's a little.
Let's just do this and we'll see where it takes us.
He was like, I think you'll lose weight pretty quickly. And I was like, okay, that sounds great. Yeah. And the crazy thing was I did. I was like.
You're younger.
And I kind of floored him too, because he was like, but to me, I think this also proved the insulin resistance aspect of things. I lost about 100 pounds in 3 months and I wasn't ill.
Whoa.
Like, I wasn't one of those patients that was like sick and that's how they lost their weight. It literally just fell off.
Wow.
And I followed my plan and I wasn't going crazy. And my program is in the biz, we call it a balanced program. So there's some that are super low carb and then there's balanced. So mine was a balance. So you ate carbs from the very beginning, which I actually thought was helpful because then you don't kind of fall off a cliff. Like, you don't then start eating carbs at some point because you've always ate carbs.
Right.
But it wasn't that I was doing like strictly like super low carb or anything like that. It's just, that's how my body responded when you fixed the insulin resistance. When my pancreas actually responded correctly to what I was eating, the weight just kind of fell off. And it was odd to me because I felt that the diet I had post-op was less restrictive than the diet I'd been on since 12. And it took me a really long time I remember that the surgeon was like, you got to get off the sauce. And I was like, oh my God, what is he talking about?
Yeah.
I said,
what was that?
He's like, I told you to stop drinking those protein shakes. You're done with those. You have to eat food. I said, oh, I'm not drinking those. He's like, yes, you are. And I was like, how do you know? And he's like, he's like, your phosphorus is high. He's like, there's nothing else you're eating or drinking that's increasing your phosphorus. I was like, I know, but it's just easier.
It is easier.
He's like, you got to eat food. He's like, food. He's like, because one, he's like, your protein shake has no carbs in it. I'm like, I know. He's like, yeah, you got to start eating carbs. I'm like, he's like, you're probably tired. I'm like, yeah, maybe a little tired. He's like, so you have to eat carbs. You have to. And I found kind of like when people ask me like for long-term success, it was helpful for me that I always ate balanced, that I always had carbs from the beginning, because it wasn't trying to figure out, like my biggest brain shift in all of this was that food is food is food. There isn't good food. There isn't bad food. Carbs are not bad. Fat is not bad. Fat is not good. Carbs are not good. Like nothing is good or bad.
Right.
It's all like, yes, there are things that are more nutritionally dense than others. There are some things that I get more out of. And those are good. But that doesn't mean I don't eat birthday cake. I don't eat, ice cream. I don't eat, pizza. I eat everything. I eat it in small quantities, and I don't push the limits of when I'm too full, or I will pay the price.
Yes.
But, it's one of those things that to me, I had to change that view of good and bad and what I'm supposed to be eating and what I'm not supposed to be eating, and really look at how things made me feel. If I ate something and it made me feel like shit, maybe I needed to like reassess if I should continue to do that, because then am I doing that as self-punishment? Right. Is that almost like a self-harm behavior where I'm bad, therefore I'm eating bad, therefore I feel bad and I deserve to feel bad, which I can find myself in that cycle sometimes.
Been there.
Yeah.
More than once to say. Yeah.
And I see that in my clients too. And so sometimes it's easier to kind of call that out for what it is versus like, you shouldn't be eating, like what's going on that's kind of causing that behavior to continue, that it feels like you deserve to feel like shit. Yeah. And so kind of looking at some of the, like core beliefs surrounding lovability and if you're worthy of being on this earth and like all the stuff that's like really deep down, that's also connected with kind of all of the other things that we're also trying to deal with simultaneously, because bariatric surgery does not happen in a vacuum. Like you're still going to have loved ones that you need to care for, or you're in college, or you're in relationships, you have children, like it doesn't happen in a vacuum. So trying to figure all of this stuff out while also being in your life is really challenging.
Yes.
It really is.
Yes to everything.
Because life still freaking happens. So there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. And a lot of the times the people that surround you don't understand what you're doing.
Yeah. Or why.
Or what all of it entails, or what, they make prejudgments because of the stigma that surrounds weight loss surgery, instead of looking at it as like, oh, like this is like, I think it's constantly funny that, not funny, haha, but that people will start a new diet in the beginning of the year. They'll do, what is
keto,
Plexus, keto, like
30
Weight Watchers. Yeah. They'll do
30.
all of that. And you'll post about it and people will be like, oh my gosh, that's great. I'm so excited for you, blah, 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 blah. And there's no judgment for starting a diet. But the moment that you say, I'm having weight loss surgery because my health needs this, and there's all these prejudgments that are out there, and they're like, are you sure? Are you there yet? And it's like,
yeah, I'm there.
If I just said, hey, I'm starting this new diet and it's called coffee cup, like they'd be like, awesome, that's so great.
Tell me more.
What did you do? But the moment you say surgery, it's just like,
I just don't understand why just the word surgery for anything, people freak out.
Yes.
And I understand surgery is serious. I'm not negating that, especially the year I came out of with surgery complications and dealing with family members. It shit happens, but it's like, okay, surgery, especially the one that we have, Like it's like low risk.
It is.
It's like
And it's
lower
been
than like a
crazy.
gallbladder, right?
Yes.
A gallbladder surgery.
And we have done so much awesome research during the pandemic where we started doing a lot of these surgeries outpatient. And let me tell you, the surgeons freaked out because they're like, what are we going to do? We don't have the hospital. And there's a couple, there's one guy down in Houston in particular. He just started doing everything outpatient and he just figured out a way to make sure. And what we figured out is like safety wise, we didn't have what we thought was going to happen. Like our fear has always been if we send people home right away, we don't follow, we don't do a whole day of fluids or whatever, like bad stuff's going to happen. But what we figured out is we have them come back in the morning. We do fluids in the office. Like there were ways to figure it out. Now there's some financial incentive for us not to go outpatient, but we at least got some data surrounding safety. And also that I think right now our safety rating is close to that of like a hysterectomy. And so they do those outpatient.
Okay.
And that includes bypass and sleeve. So duodenal switch and SADI because there's a little more involvement. I think their rating is a little higher, but
that makes sense.
I don't know how to speak that, but bypass and sleeve for sure.
Okay.
And we did it outpatient. They were doing SADI outpatient too. And they really didn't find that we had the complications that we had, but I know for me, I didn't tell anyone for years that I had bariatric surgery. I think some people knew, like if someone asked me directly, I didn't lie, but I certainly wasn't public about it. I had no social media surrounding it. I was not out there talking about it, mainly because most of the feedback I got was, well, my aunt had that and she drank herself to death.
Yeah.
And and I'll tell you this too, part of why I became a therapist, and we'll get into this a little more. So I had my clearance, which it was fine. And I thought, maybe I should see a therapist. And so I found someone that said that they knew something about bariatrics. I said, oh, good. And I went to see her and she said, well, you're going to become an alcoholic, so you better stop drinking now and leave your boyfriend because he's going to leave you anyways. And I walked out of there and I was like, that was the worst therapy session I've ever had. We don't tell people what to do. And we certainly don't predict the future. I got no crystal ball. And so I was like, well, if she's out there, that probably means a bunch of people are finding her. So I better, maybe I eventually, once I figure all this out, could be someone that they could find that would not tell them that they're going to become an alcoholic and they need to leave their boyfriend because they're going to leave them anyways. He's now my husband, so he didn't go anywhere.
Well, they're wrong. So
14 years. Yeah. Didn't become an alcoholic. Still not a fan of alcohol. So, it's just one of those things now statistically. Yes, we have some good statistics surrounding like alcohol use and that kind of thing. Believe it or not, divorce, even though everyone loves to say this, there's no higher instances of divorce of people that have bariatric surgery towards the natural population.
Yeah.
There is an increase for alcohol by year 4, but not for divorce. The general public divorce rate is so high, it's not any higher than those who have bariatric surgery. So,
I mean, coming from a divorced woman, like it wasn't the surgery that made the divorce happen. It was the fact that my ex was an asshole. So that was pretty much the crippling of our marriage.
I just think we see more after surgery.
Yes.
I think that's the deal. Like I noticed, like I felt like it sounds dumb, but the whole like woke thing, like I literally felt more awake to my life.
Yeah.
Like I realized, oh, these people aren't the nicest. And I don't know why I keep having them around me.
I mean, I've cut out family members because I'm like, no, I deserve more than what I'm being given.
Right.
So and the boundaries. I think the boundaries is a really big thing is you learn to set up boundaries and after surgery. And so when you start to put up those boundaries and you're saying like, this doesn't work for me anymore. People don't understand that.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you do have to cut them out.
You do.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that kind of ties into the feeling of being less worthy when we're in larger bodies. And so feeling like we need to people please in order to keep people around. And maybe those, I definitely had exes that gave me some similar messages. So, and so those kind of stick with us. And so some of that people pleasing behavior can continue. And at some point you kind of reevaluate. I think particularly for me, when I started focusing on my own health, I was kind of like, what are other areas that I need to kind of clean up or look at or maybe get into therapy myself and really talk about versus, how I normally, I'm a terrible patient in therapy. I'll just tell you a bunch of stories and not deal with my own shit at all. And so like, then I thought like, maybe I should actually get into therapy and deal with my own shit versus like just telling stories. And so, those kind of things. And I think that created a good shift that also kind of helped with long-term maintenance. But I also think like being really continually following up, I go back and see my team every single year.
I love it.
Every year I go back and see my team. Actually in October, I don't know how my month changed, but every October I go back, I see the psychologist, I see the nutritionist, I see our surgeon doesn't see you. They actually have a bariatric PCP who sees you, who I like more than the surgeon anyways. He has much more of a personality.
Okay.
So my surgeon was great.
Yeah.
But he's a surgeon and not much personality. But a bariatric doctor. And the team has been the same team. The nutritionist finally left because she had a baby. But like my team is the same team that's been there like 12 years. Everybody's the same. And so that's been really good for me. And I remember sitting with the psychologist, Dr. Ames, and saying, okay, so how many years until like I'm good? Like if I keep it off this many years, like, and she just kind of looked at me and she was like, well, you've done really well. Statistically, you've beaten the odds, but this never ends. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I know. But she had this great chart. And I think that was very helpful for me too. Because one of the big things when I train other therapists is helping clients have realistic expectation for what surgery can do for them. A lot of clients come in and think that they're going to be a healthy BMI. And statistically, that's not average. Yeah. And I also have to preface the fact that my experience is not average. I lost 100% plus of my excess weight. We don't expect that. No. And I've maintained that over 10 years. We don't expect that either. I think I'm in less than 3% of the post-bariatric population. Wow. And so I also have to preface my experience to them to say, if you're not meeting what I did, that's not a failure either. So one of my big takeaways for training therapists is helping clients not identify that they've failed if they don't keep 100% of their excess weight off. Because what we found is if people don't have realistic expectations and they don't meet a goal that they have in mind that may be unrealistic, they're not following up at all.
Yeah, they stop.
We have a large population of bariatric patients who have never seen their team ever again. They've never had blood work. No one's had an upper GI. They never had a bone density test. We have no idea what's going on with them. And they're just lost to follow-up because they think that their surgeon is going to say, well, you gained all your weight back or you gained a large majority. Where now, especially with the GLP-1s, where they're integrating that into bariatric programs, it's like, go back.
Yeah.
They'll help you. Not only will they help you make sure that you're okay, that your vitamins and that everything's okay, we're also going to help you maybe lose some of that weight you gained, particularly over the pandemic. I mean, everyone gained weight over the pandemic, myself included. The gyms closed. How I work from home. I've never worked from home. That's helpful for me not to work because I bring my food and I put it in my little fridge and I don't have a kitchen of food available to me all day, every day. So that was an adjustment. I injured my foot from I got a fake Peloton and decided I had a lot of time on my hands. So I did like 3 hours of Peloton a day. Don't do that. You'll injure your foot. I was doing it half-hour increments. I was so stressed out. I was like, I got a half hour. Let me just pop on the Peloton. And then I injured my foot so bad. It was in a boot for 8 months. And the doctor was like,
not worth it.
What did you do exactly that caused this? He's like, what did you do? And I said, well, I've just, I've been on my Peloton. He's like, how much? And I said, well, I don't know. And I pulled up the app and I was like, a lot.
A lot.
A lot. And he's like, well, how much is a lot? I was like 3 to 6 hours a day. He was like, what?
Yeah.
How do you even have time for that? I was like, it's in half an hour increments. So I didn't really realize how much it had become. And I seriously injured my, it to this day is still not great. So then I'm in a boot for 7 months. So, I mean, and again, it's like helping my clients also realize shit happens.
Yeah, it does.
We can't spend, and that's one of those things, again, kind of going back to the realistic expectation is, could you maintain 100% weight loss if it meant that you counted every morsel of food you ate, you're at the gym for 2 hours a day? Maybe. Do you want to live that life? No. You want to live a life that doesn't revolve around food. That's what you were doing before and it didn't work.
Right.
So what is a weight you can maintain where you aren't in the gym for 2 hours a day, that you aren't having to count every morsel of food? You're living balanced. So like if you know tonight you're going out with the girls for tacos, the rest of your day may look pretty even versus it being like, I guess we could say the F word.
Yes.
F
Oh,
it.
yes. You still said F it.
Oh, F it.
Yes, we definitely cuss on this podcast.
Okay. And I'm a therapist who cusses a lot. I'm always like trying to gauge people on that too, because some people are not a big fan of that.
My therapist cusses and I get enjoyment out of it every time he does.
Yeah.
I have to.
Every time.
I have to. Like that's part of expression.
Yes.
So like, fuck it. I'm going to go through the Starbucks line and get whatever. Oh, they're going to having pizza at work. Yeah. Oh, we got donuts in the break room. I'm going to have donut. And then I'm going to go have tacos. That's like a 5,000 calorie day versus I went out and had like 800 calories worth of tacos, but the rest of my day looked pretty good. Now we're at a 2,000 calorie. Like those are the kind of decisions we want you to make. Not the I'm going to eat like clean 99% of the time. So once a month I can like, I don't know, go out and have a margarita. Like we don't want you to live that way because it's not maintainable. Yeah. Like if you can't do it for the rest of your life, don't do it.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
If you can't do it for the rest of your life,
because I couldn't do keto for the rest of my life. That wasn't going to work.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, I love it.
It's not realistic.
None.
And we are a fan on this podcast of saying we didn't have this surgery to not be able to live our lives.
Yeah.
Like we had this surgery so we could live, we could have experiences, we could eat foods that we've never tried before. Like it's not realistic. And it's funny because I look back at the beginning of my journey and I remember saying, I'm never having pasta ever again. I'm never having any carbs ever again. Like I remember I was so adamant and like me and Mel would go rounds about it. Cause I'm like, no, I don't need to have carbs. And everything that I would buy at the grocery store, flip it around and be like, nope, too many carbs. Nope, too many carbs. And then as soon as I started,
it's exhausting.
It wasted so much time.
It was exhausting. I did not look healthy. I was way too skinny. I didn't even I was moving all the time. And I was at a healthy BMI weight, and I'm putting quotations around it because BMI, we all know BMI is bullshit.
Oh, it totally is.
But I was not healthy. I wasn't at a healthy spot. Yeah, I was healthier than I was at 265, but I still wasn't living my life to the fullest that I could.
No.
Yeah. And I'm now and I've been all over the board at this point. I have been kind of overweight. I've been really overweight. I've been too skinny at this point. I've done the regain a little bit. So I can kind of see where I do the best. And okay, if I eat this, I'm not going to feel the greatest tomorrow. So maybe, I have a smaller bit of it, or it's like you're saying, you adjust what you want out of what you're eating and doing in your life.
Yeah, it's like I love to go to all-inclusive resorts, I am going to enjoy myself at an all-inclusive resort. So that may be a day I don't give a fuck. I'm just gonna do whatever I want. Now I'm gonna come home and calm it down. But it's one of those things. I'm not gonna. I've had clients who've gone on their honeymoon and not eating much the entire. I was like, you were in Bali and you didn't eat all the food. You need to eat all the you need to go back now, and so you can eat all the food.
You don't know when you're going to be back or when you're be able to do those experiences again. So just live.
I was just in Mexico at an all-inclusive, and
that looks so fun.
It was interesting because it was only my second week on the GLP-1 on Mounjaro. And I was I didn't really have an appetite, but I was I know that I'm not going to be in Mexico for the next 5 years.
We don't know when you're going to go back.
So so I enjoyed myself. Did I make logical decisions of okay, let's make sure I get protein first in the morning, which is so easy to do in Mexico. And then I'm somebody who loves ceviche. Love it. I can eat it morning, noon, and night. It's my favorite. And so that's what I ordered. But so I was eating like that. But yes, I was drinking massive margaritas the whole time we were there. That's why I was I wanted to have margaritas on the beach. So that's what I did. And I enjoyed myself. And when I came back and I weighed myself and I was 4 pounds up, I didn't try to sit there and beat myself up for enjoying the vacation. I was just it'll come back off.
Well, and it's like, okay, that makes sense. And then just keep going.
Yeah. Cause I was like, okay, anytime I fly, I retain water.
Yeah.
So we knew that was a lot of it. And yeah, within the next week, it was all gone. Like I just focused on water and protein and I was good. But I just would hate to go to Mexico or someplace like that and not enjoy myself.
Exactly.
Not enjoy myself. And do I want to not enjoy the rest of my life?
No, that's not why we got a surgery.
No.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, exactly.
So basically you became a bariatric therapist because you went and saw your own for yourself.
That was awful.
And you were not a fan. You're like, no, we need help.
So it's
yes.
So it's interesting because I waited years and years and years before I actually saw a single client surrounding bariatrics, because in my brain, I was like, well, who am I to say I'm some kind of expert or I know how to do? Because I always felt like I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
Though I was maintaining, I was like, I couldn't tell you how I'm doing that. I work out and I like, but that may not be everyone's circumstance. It's something you kind of figure out in therapy too.
Yeah.
That like everyone's circumstances are different. And so if I say, all right, here's the plan, my friend, we're going to have you do this and have you do this. And then they say, well, I can't afford this, or I can't manage that, or I don't have, I legit don't have time to do that. You're giving them a feeling of kind of an ultimatum. If you don't do it, then it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So I would say I waited maybe 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
And then I had a place that I was working. One of the receptionists knew that I had bariatric surgery, and they said, hey, somebody called and they said they need this evaluation because they want to have therapy or they want to have surgery. And I'm like, oh, I don't do that. They need to see a psychologist. And she, oh, okay. And then I started looking into it. I'm like, do you actually need to be a psychologist to do these evals? And actually you don't. The ASMBS specifically identifies that there is no gatekeeping surrounding the type. And so I said, okay, well, maybe I'll look into it.
Yeah.
And I said, well, then I need to find a training. Didn't exist. So looked for training, reached out to ASMBS, and they were like, well, we don't really want to say you have to do anything, but there's a document and it like lays everything out that you need to do. And I was like, so I just read a document and then I create a report, and they're like, yes. And I was like, okay. So I read the document and I was like, okay, well, what do I do with this? And so over the next 4 years, I like created like what my education looks like and my templates and the letter and the education, what questions I asked them beforehand. And that's why I ended up doing the training, because I never had the template. I never had the education. I've slowly made it up and then shared it with other people who are like, oh, so I've individually trained people, but not like on a, like you pay and just do the training.
Yeah.
And so about a year ago, a friend of mine was like, this is super labor intensive. Why don't you just record it and then you can sell it to people? And I'm like, well, I don't want to sell it to, I don't want to make it a business. Like, I don't want to seem like I'm trying to make money. She's like, well, that's okay if you are, because you're helping people have access.
Yeah.
Right. And one of the biggest issues that most of my clients run into is they have no idea who does these. So like there are hundreds and hundreds of therapists in Orlando, and I think there's 5 of us who do the evals correctly. You can have people that say they do it and then they have to come back and get it done again because they don't know what the letter and the education entails. So the way that the eval works is you're supposed to have some education because you can't give informed consent if you don't know what you're consenting to. So part of what we're gathering is that you know what you're getting into.
Okay.
Well, how do I know if I don't educate you? So part of it is going over how the surgery works in layman's terms, what to expect after surgery, what are some of the rules, how do you manage some of those rules? What does it look like if, your partner isn't supportive? Like, what do you do if you're noticing alcohol? Statistically, what's a transfer addiction? Because no one ever talked to me about any of that when I had surgery. I had no idea. I knew that one therapist had made that comment, but I didn't know what the statistical, like what's actually happening.
Right.
Part of what's happening with alcohol, which is super fascinating, did a whole course on this. You feel like you're at your baseline before you are. So you actually feel more sober than you are. And so you'll drink again. and you're actually creating a higher baseline. And so we see an increased risk of DUIs. So I had some I had a DUI attorney in town who also had bariatric surgery. And so whenever you'd have a bariatric patient, he's like, hey, you gotta go see Ashlyn, and she'll kind of explain how all this works. And so he doesn't practice here anymore, so I don't get any referrals. And they would come in, they're like, Ashlyn, I swear to you, I had 2 drinks. I said, yep, I know. Hold on a second. And I showed the chart, and I'm like, this is what happened. So I tell every single solitary patient who comes through my doors, you may feel sober when you aren't. You're at an increased risk of DUI. And I've seen that in the kind of the bariatric celebrity Instagram community. Okay. We had a very famous, it's been a couple years, she killed someone.
What?
She had a DUI manslaughter. I guess it's been probably 7 years. She's out in Vegas. And she had a couple of drinks. Yeah, she ran it. I think it's been a while. Wow. She was one of the first ones. And so when that happened, I was like, well, or when I was learning about kind of that baseline thing, it came to me. I was like, oh, this is why we see that increased risk of DUI. It isn't just that people are abusing alcohol. It's that it's metabolizing different in your body. And if you didn't know that, so I was at a weight loss meetup, many, many years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. We had someone who got alcohol poisoning. And I remember I watched her throughout the night. I'm like, how did she end up with, how did that happen? Mm-hmm. And again, I'm sitting in this course and I'm like, oh, this is what's happening. She felt sober. So she felt like she sobered up. So she drank again and she felt sobered up and she drank again. And her blood alcohol was rising because it's hitting and it's metabolizing in your body differently. Yeah.
Whoa.
It's crazy. Especially with Saudi.
Yeah. We have been doing this podcast for almost 3 years now.
Yep.
And never have heard that.
Really?
No.
Oh my gosh. I should come and do a thing just on alcohol.
Yeah, we need to.
I find it so fascinating. And it's when I have clients that come in and they're like, Ashlyn, I have a transfer addiction. I talk a lot about too, the ones we don't talk about, which are behavioral addictions. Mm-hmm. I saw a rash of men that were coming in, another attorney, that were addicted to raging. They would go and get in fights that they'd be righteous in harming people. So they'd go into bad neighborhoods, they'd start bar fights, and it was this really interesting behavior. And in all the cases, they were abused by their father as children. And as they got physically bigger, they were then bigger than their father. And so what was happening is as they started to lose the weight, they no longer felt safe. And so they'd find these situations where they would show, I'm not scrawny, you can't mess with me, I'll fight you, and they were getting addicted to that adrenaline rush of being big and bad, also mixed in with some crazy trauma history. But it was so fascinating to me because I was like, I've never heard anyone do any research about this. And so I started looking into more of the behavioral. They're not technically addictions, but they kind of fall into that. So gambling, spending money you don't have, adrenaline seeking, shoplifting. Gosh, I see that sometimes. Racing cars, stuff that your average accountant in their 30s, living a normal life and then end up in a prostitution ring. And they're like, Ashlyn, how did I get here? I was just doing it. It was not OnlyFans then, but something like that.
Yeah.
How did it get this bad? And it was it's the attention. It's the, they'd never experienced anything like that before. It was exciting and fun. Their life had been boring and now it was exciting. And then all of a sudden they're kind of involved in human trafficking. So it's okay, how did I get here? And now I'm out of it, but now what do I do? Because my life is in shambles. So everyone that comes in, we talk about that so that they don't end up there. Yeah. And if they're heading in that direction, they know what it is. So it's not so scary. Because to me, so 1 in 4 people have a more euphoric feeling with alcohol when they drink. That is me. If I drink, it feels fucking awesome. And so when I did, the first time that happened, it was actually at a meetup because I don't drink at all. I went to a meetup, my first meetup. I was so nervous. I didn't know anyone. The girl that put it on, Joy, absolutely fabulous, was just come, it'll be fun. Sitting in my hotel room all alone. And I'm like, oh God, I had just had skin removal. I was feeling really good, but I was like, oh, I don't know how this is going to go. I had a blast. And so
Always.
and
It's always a blast at meetups.
It was, and I remember we were like at this club and I'm looking around, I'm so drunk and I'm like, this is the most awesome feeling I've ever felt. And I was like, and I probably should never do it again because I know how people get sucked into this. It felt so good that I was like, So for a long time, the only time I ever drank was at meetups, which is kind of funny. And we haven't had one in a really long time. So, and that was just kind of like, for me, I knew that I couldn't be someone who drinks on the weekends because like that'll then turn into like Thursday and Friday and Saturday, like because it feels good. And so for me, it's not that I can never drink again. I just have to be really aware of that. So I tell people like, don't worry. If you get really euphoric when you drink, just be aware of that.
Yeah.
And don't utilize it to go to sleep because then you'll be drinking all day. So because it'll be something you'll utilize instead of socialization, instead of exercise, instead of your friends, instead of your partner, instead of all the things that you could do instead. And so for me, like bariatric evals, the number one thing to me is education. Because at the end of the day, you're going to tell me whatever you're going to tell me. I did the same thing. And so I know you're putting your best foot forward. Thank you for that. It makes my eval a lot easier. But my biggest thing is like, so for all the stuff you're not telling me, let me tell you about that. Or, how can you manage some of the people in your life that are potentially not supportive? Because sometimes just seeing your success, they become a little more supportive. And so being open-minded to the idea that they could change, that right now they're not supportive because potentially they're afraid you're going to die because their aunt drank themselves to, the only person they knew got so skinny they looked like death. Got, gained all their weight back and died. Had a complication that, some bizarre, thing that just doesn't happen often. So it's one of those things that like, we have to just be open to the idea that things could change, that maybe some of that resistance is fear, that they don't have the words to be able to say, I'm scared. I don't want to lose my partner. I don't want to lose my daughter. I don't really understand how you got to this place because, I think you could just have willpower. You could just have willpower.
I hate that.
Or maybe your mother is like my mother who had 5 children, weighs 100 pounds. So I'm the only heavy person in my direct family. So I have my parents are of average or low weight. My brothers are they're very tall and very thin, and my sisters are also very thin. And so I was always kind of like the what's going on with that one?
The black sheep.
Yeah. And so I was thankful because I didn't necessarily have. I have a lot of clients that they come from a family where everyone's heavy. And the feeling is, oh, you think you're better than us.
Yes.
Oh, you think you're going to get thin and you're going to be beautiful. And, again, that like idea of you can't be beautiful without being thin, kind of all of that kind of, you're better than us, which it was interesting. I had because I had such a weird body type, particularly when I was heavy, I had like nothing that fit me particularly well at all. Cause no boobs, all tummy, like just nothing fit right. Pants were a nightmare. So I had some prized clothing possessions that I wanted to make sure were going to go to good homes. So I had some friends come and I brought all my stuff up rather, as in Florida. I went back to Chicago where I'm from. And I'm like giving all my clothes away. And I'm thinking I'm doing such a nice service. I'm making sure these are good. And my one friend, she was pissed. She said, oh, you think you're going to come here and give us all da, da, da. And I was like, oh, no. These are the most comfortable pants I've ever worn. You should really try them. They're great.
Yeah.
I don't want to just donate these. I want to make sure they go to good homes. And so I did have to have some of those conversations with my friends who were worried. I had another friend that was like, oh, I thought you were going to lose weight and become a bitch. And I was like, well, interesting, man, because this surgery is not a personality transplant. It's just me in a smaller body. How about that? Still me, smaller body.
Yeah.
But it was like, well, how is I going to become a bitch? Like, what about this? Like, all of a sudden I was going to, I guess, become too good for them. But
if you think about it, though, we've always thought that skinny people are bitches. Like a lot of us bigger people would be like, oh, that's skinny bitch.
Yeah.
Like it must be nice to be skinny. Like, but it's not. It's literally like it doesn't change whether you're skinny or bigger. Like,
yeah, because
you can still have a fucked up life and a whole bunch of problems.
You can be a total bitch and be a plus size.
Yeah,
obese.
we've met them.
We have completely met them. Yes, we have been friends with them.
Yeah,
like I
was gonna say it too. So.
I know I have been a bitch in my time and day. So
yeah,
it happens, and it doesn't make me any less what weight I'm at.
It's not. That is exactly a personality thing. That is not a weight thing.
Yes.
So
I'm like, I am who I was, just smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've been a therapist this whole time. You just switched gears to bariatrics once you had that.
Yeah. So I've been a therapist, say 14 years,
Okay.
14 years.
Oh,
And I have been specifically in like bariatrics almost solely for the past 3 or 4, but I've dabbled in it for 6.
Nice.
I just love all the information.
Yeah.
Like, and like I said before, like we've been doing this for almost 3 years. Like we have heard a lot.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of information. Most of what you're saying, I've never heard before.
I know.
And
it's
so
so wild.
I'm so glad that we're listening to you, because it's like, it's just crazy. And like some of it makes sense. I mean, a lot of it makes sense. But I really like that you are helping people come to a realistic scope of what your bariatric life is going to look like.
Because it's not about just like the food and how you interact with the food and your relationship with the food. It's also about relationships with your friends, your family, what to do if you don't have support. Like that goes way more involved than I've ever seen before.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm very impressed and I love it.
Which I think is so important, because at the end of the day, you have body autonomy. So this is a shift with the ASMBS, by the way, too. Okay. So just for people out there, there was a time where we were like clearing people and not clearing people. And what we figured out is that's bullshit. Like people have body autonomy. You choose if you want to have bariatric surgery. Our job as your evaluator should be to optimize you for therapy or for surgery. So if you have a therapist who is saying you have to have 10 sessions before I'm going to find a new evaluator, like that is not ASMBS. That is not correct. If they are recommending that you do some therapy to work on some things, that's okay. But if you call and they say, oh, I don't give evaluation, I don't do that, you got to see me 10 times, they're making money off of you. And that is inappropriate.
Yeah.
So
they're trying to buy that boat, man. Trying to buy that boat.
So we are not gatekeepers. We are not choosing who's going to have surgery and who isn't. This is a shift, because there was a point where like we were supposed to tell the surgeon if you were good.
Yeah.
I had no clue if you're going to do good with surgery. I know you have some support or maybe you need some help. And so we are giving recommendations. There may be times, we call it kind of green, yellow, orange, red. So there are times, so dementia, you can't give informed consent. That's a red. We cannot move forward. You can't give informed consent.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Severe cognitive inability. Someone who has what colloquially we would call like mental retardation, has a different name psychologically now, without support. We couldn't, so they can't give informed consent.
Right.
Okay. If you're actively in addiction, if you actively have an eating disorder, if you are actively struggling suicidally, you've recently been inpatient, you're currently not stable mental health wise, that's orange. It doesn't mean you can't have surgery. It means we got to get you in a better place to be more effective and have a better outcome. And so it's not a no, it's a and.
Okay.
So we're going to keep moving you forward, but I really need you to get the bulimia under control because it is going to get worse if you have a surgery, and I'm going to have you go into inpatient or whatever level of treatment we want you to go into in order for you to get a hold of this so you can be more effective post-surgery. And we got to make sure that you've done no internal damage to your body. And so I need to let your surgeon know so that we can make sure your esophagus, your stomach, your body is, your teeth are also healthy enough to have surgery, because that could be an issue. I'll be honest with you, in the 6 years I've been doing this, no one has ever told me that they have an active eating disorder.
I'm sure they're scared too, because I'm sure there is people.
Yeah. I mean, I know going through mine now, I had to do 6 sessions with my therapist because of my insurance. My insurance required me to do 6 sessions. and I've said it before and I'll say it again, I'm so glad I did. On one hand, I'm glad I did it, but on the other hand, I feel like it should have been, hey, it's really important for you to continue the therapy after surgery, because when I finished my 6 sessions and I was cleared from everybody to get surgery, I was like, I'm good. Yes, I know exactly what I'm doing. I've got this. I'm going to eat this way. I'm going to in my brain, I was like, nothing can go wrong ever again because I'm fully prepared.
And you've been cleared. And
I was not good.
No.
We found out I was not good. So I made some poor decisions.
And it's interesting because to me, a red flag of your situation was the fact that you told someone that you are not going to ever eat carbs again.
Yeah.
And no one had a conversation with you surrounding like, hey, I get where you're going with that.
Yeah.
But that might not, because the people that do, it's so interesting to me. There's probably like 4 or 5 years that I tracked every day what I ate, and I could tell you what I ate 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. Don't do that, by the way. Yeah. Do not track your food like that. That's crazy.
I cannot.
And some of the people that have the hardest time years out are my perfect patients. Uh-huh. They've tracked every morsel of food. They didn't eat carbs. They drink all their water and they work out. And then things are still not going well. And it's like, fuck it. I'm going to go back to doing absolutely nothing. So on, off. So black, white.
Yeah.
And so sometimes when I have clients that are like, oh, I can tell you what I ate 6 years ago in my MyFitnessPal app. And I'm like, oh, let's talk about that. Because after bariatric surgery, I want you to let that shit go. Let it go. Let it go. Like, let that shit go. This is not your life. This can't be your life. No. Like, I remember there's someone in the bariatric community that I met at a meetup. And we were getting a smoothie or something. And she's like, I can't have that because when you measure out a cup of it, I don't know how many blueberries versus strawberries versus raspberries are in the cup. So I can't track that. And I was thinking, if that's the rest of my life, fuck that. Yeah. Like, and I remember kind of looking at her. Yeah. I was like, what? Like, we're having a smoothie, girl. This is fruits. Yeah. This is fruits. This is frozen fruits. I'm not worried about maybe potentially 16 extra calories, but I didn't say that at the time. But as a therapist, I might say like, what might that, set you up for in the, like, what do you actually want your life to look like? And could you believe, which obviously for most of us is no, that you could manage your weight without all of that activity? Mm-hmm. And what would it look like if you could? And could you possibly believe that it could be that easy?
Well, I think what I think I've learned from Kel is that for those people, they don't trust themselves.
No, I have no trust. I have no trust in myself.
No.
Zero.
And we've been told that.
Yeah.
We've been told that all along. Why would we believe it could be easy? Why would we believe that we're worthy of it being easy? Why would we believe that the medication would work, that the surgery would work? Nothing else has worked. Why would this work? And so when it starts to feel like it's failing, the boat sinks immediately. Because it's like, oh, this is what I was afraid of. Yep. And so that's why having realistic expectation is so important, because the boat doesn't have to sink. It's still floating. You're still down all this weight. You're still off all your meds. Mm-hmm. You're still physically feeling good. You don't have to order clothes off the internet. You can just walk into a store and buy stuff. All of the things that you wanted, you still have. It's just the number on the scale is a little different, and that's okay. Like we can have flexibility in our thinking, which is like a huge part of therapy, in that what does it mean to be successful? And so when I have clients that have really rigid beliefs about what it means to be successful, red flag. Like, let's chat about that, because one, potentially unrealistic to begin with. And so if you never, my goal weight, which is so ridiculous because no one told me this is unrealistic, was 130 pounds. Because my sister, I won't say which one, one of them weighed 110 pounds. And I think one weighed 120. And I was like, well, I'll still be the fat sister, but I'll be the fat sister at 130. So I never made it to 130.
No.
I got down. Well, right now is my lowest weight ever, but I got down to almost about this weight, and I looked terrible. And I remember thinking but I'm not even I'm not at the weight that I thought I wanted to be. And I was still a size. I'm also one of those people that at 134 pounds, I was still a size 10. How and why? I don't know.
Got some hips, girl.
Well, no, I have no hips and no waist. I am a square. I'm just a square. I've had some skin removal that is kind of, I remember I went in, this is kind of funny too. I went into the plastic surgeon and I was talking to him when I was getting skin removal. And he said, could you tell me, like, celebrity wise, like, if you thought of like a body? And I was like, immediately, I was like, do you know Ice-T's wife, Coco?
Oh, yeah.
And he was like, and he looked at me and he goes,
not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not so unrealistic. I was like, oh, I don't think I could have that body. But like, when I think of the most feminine woman, I could possibly think Coco, Ice-T's wife.
Yep.
And he was like, well, wow. Okay. We aren't going to get that. I'm like, no, I know that. But I would like not to be a rectangle anymore. Like maybe I could.
Yeah. Can you curve some things out?
Hips, or at least take away, some of the extra skin. And so he was like, okay, well, just so you're realistic. I'm like, no, you can't make me Coco. I said, we got it. That would take a long time and a lot of energy that I don't have, and the money I don't have. But it was just funny when he was like, tell me the body that you of like, oh, you could put my head on Coco's body. I'm like, that'd be great. I couldn't be a therapist anymore. That'd be so distracting.
That would be very distracting.
That would be so distracting. Yeah. So distracting.
I would tell you, I'd be like, I can't take you seriously right now.
Yes. So it's not only a realistic expectation for bariatric surgery, but if you continue on into plastics, it's also finding that realistic expectation.
And I will say on YouTube, so I have a YouTube channel, Advanced Bariatric Counseling. I have one video. It's on body dysmorphia. It was I did a talk in a conference that I happened to record, so I threw it on there. So if anyone is actually struggling with body dysmorphia, what is it called? The theme of that talk is, don't worry, it's probably not body dysmorphia. It's probably normal aspects of your body changing. And so one of the things I always remind people, even from the beginning, is we don't walk around looking at ourselves.
No, we don't.
We just don't. Our viewpoint is this way. And so I've seen pictures where I didn't recognize myself. I've walked past something and didn't realize it was me. I've looked at myself in the mirror and been like, oh, hi. So, because prior to weight loss, I didn't have a mirror. I didn't have a mirror that you could see all of me in. It's funny because I had reverse body dysmorphia. So I had no idea how big I'd gotten.
Oh, that's me too.
I had absolutely no idea. I had a picture that someone took that was kind of my like, oh shit, I better get my life together here. And I was like, who is that?
Like, wait a minute.
That big person. I was like, that's me. That's a terrible angle of me. And then I realized it wasn't a terrible, like, that's what I look like. Wow. This is also before like cameras having decent, or phones having decent cameras.
Yeah.
Helpful. But I had no idea what I looked like. And so as I started to lose weight, I actually had kind of the opposite where I was like, look at, like, I had to look at myself more to actually like, and when I had skin removal surgery, so I've had kind of 4 rounds because I went kind of the slower route, more financially, but that I had to remind myself, and I remind my clients too, you've never looked at that part of your body more than you will when you have skin removal surgery. So you will get stuck in I had no realistic understanding of what it looked like to begin with. So then all of a sudden to be like, oh, there's a dog tag. And I was like, well, yeah, but there used to be a whole bunch of skin there. So now there's a little dog tag. That's fine.
Right.
I keloided really bad. These are really old and they're still, noticeable. But part of it was just like, and I remember the surgeon and I were going back and forth. They're like scar lines and I was like, I don't care. I don't care. I could care less what scars I have. Take this shit off. Like, because he was like, well, I could have like a scar that only goes to here. I could have one go. I was like, take it down to the elbow. I don't care. You want to take it down to the wrist. I said, take it off. I was like, unzip that stuff. And so it's one of those things that you're going to look at yourself more. You're going to probably be more critical of yourself. It may become preoccupying. And so in that thing on YouTube, I actually give some tips on like what to do if it's occurring, more like how to kind of thing. But also I talk about that. And I give my own example in my evals where I talk about how I got T.R.I.B.E hot bucks in the mail after I had surgery. Because I had bought some, so I got my hot buck, I got my coupons. I drove all the way down to the mall. I walked in the store and the lady was like, "Are you buying a gift for someone?" Because remember, I lost all my weight really quickly. And I was like, "No, I got my bucks." And she's like, "I don't think we sell anything here. Do you need shoes?" Because I have big feet, so I actually did need shoes. And they actually shrunk a little, which I was thankful for. I was like 11, 12.
Oh,
and I'm down to a 10, much more manageable. But anyway, so I drove I had all of that time to say, Ashlyn, which I actually could. They had size 12, so I actually did buy some jeans. But it was one of those things that we're going to have moments like that. And it doesn't mean you're crazy. And it doesn't mean you're not accepting of, what's going on. I don't know, whatever people come up with. It's just, that's normal. Mm-hmm. It's normal for me to get excited towards expensive that they sent me 150 hot, I got money in my pocket. That normally would excite me. Right. So why wouldn't it excite me post-surgery? So I think that that's one of those things that, people will come back and they'll be like, "Oh, this experience happened or that. It's so weird. I'm so crazy. Something's wrong." And it's like, yeah, that sounds pretty normal to me. I always tell people too, if we can kind of figure out how it happened, right? I don't worry about it that much. If prior to surgery that wouldn't have happened and then post, then maybe I'd be like, okay. But it's no, that was something that was super exciting that would come. And then I get to go, I had 2 stores. And we had 3 because we had Ashley Stewart too. We had Lane Bryant, which usually ran a little old. We had T.R.I.B that was expensive and cute. And I had Ashley Stewart, which most of the time did not fit my body shape because their target audience was a different body shape. And that's it. We had Girlfriends LA. Do you guys remember Girlfriends LA?
No.
Oh, they used to have a magazine. That was the day of Girlfriends LA. They had everything from size 0 to 30.
Wow.
And so they went out of business. But I remember my friend, her mom was it was so important for her. Her mother it was so important. She was very tall and heavier that she had clothes that were cool. Yeah. I remember she had a pair of hot pink pleather pants for Girlfriends LA that I wanted so bad. She was so ahead of her time. Okay. So we used to have that, but it was a magazine. So we didn't have any stores. So, but again, it's okay, I can backtrack to be yes, it used to be exciting when that happened because that would be something. And I think I struggled. One of the weird things I struggled with post-surgery is I had no idea what to do when I then had all the stores.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'd go in the store and I was everything's an option. I'd go into Charlotte, the places I always wanted to shop at a teen, but couldn't.
Yeah.
And then I was kind of a little too old. And I'm well, can I wear this? Can I wear that? How do I dress my body now? Because it's still at a funky body shape. And so, I think that was so weird for me because I'm standing in Kohl's and I'm am I in the junior section, the Mrs. section, the old lady section, or the petite section? Because I could be in all of them. This is way too overwhelming. Mm-hmm. And so that was, again, something I had to kind of process and go through. And I had periods where I probably wore stuff that wasn't great. And, and even now, when I go on vacation, I always make a point to buy some cool stuff off Shein that I would never wear anywhere else. I had this one dress I bought recently that I was damn girl, you look good at that, but I never had those experiences prior to surgery. It was all just kind of that, that scene in Princess Diary where she's I guess this is good enough. She's putting her glasses on, her hair is all crazy. And that was most of my clothing life was well, I won't get arrested for being naked. I guess I got something on my body.
Yeah.
But it was never fun. It was never this makes me feel amazing and sexy and fabulous. And that's been something that's been so fun, especially now. I know we're not supposed to fast fashion, but now that we have places where some of that stuff is readily available.
Yeah.
Cheaply.
Yeah.
Well, it feels nice to be able to just go into stores and wear what you want to wear and buy the things. And it's not just it just fits. And the fact that it's so glittery or glamoury, you're I don't want that. So finding your style
someone
is
dictating.
Mm-hmm.
That was one thing that was somewhat challenging because T.R.I.B would kind of dictate, this is what's in season this season. Mm-hmm. It's going to be skulls. And, so they would kind of, they'd put out, this is what's in season. And you'd be okay, well, this I guess is what we'll get. Or bathing suits. They're this is what you're going to wear because this is all we got. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden being actually you could wear whatever you want. And you're like, oh, wow, that's a lot of choice. I don't know about that.
I think that's why Shein has become such a big deal, because they literally give you any style you want in any size you want.
Yep.
Although I notice a lot of the times I'm like, oh, that's really cute. And I'll click on it, and small and extra small are the only ones that are there.
Yeah.
So start stocking more of the mid sizes, please.
Well, it's because that's the average is medium large now.
I know. So stock more of it. It gets me.
They will.
I'm always that's so cute. And then I click on it and I'm like, it's sold out. And then I get angry.
Or you have to be like quick with it too. Like someone will wear, somebody might have been the sleep dietitian. Someone was wearing something. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cute. And they're like, it's from, and I went and I was like, no, it's sold out. It's so cute.
Sad day. Yep. She wears really cute things.
Oh, Jamie has a good style.
Oh, funny story about Jamie. So she probably thinks I like fangirled out on her. So we were both at the ASMBS conference. And so I was texting her because I'm like, oh, she's here. That'll be so exciting. Da, da, da. I probably freaked her out. We never saw each other. So
I was like, we were with Jamie at that. We didn't
we were with Jamie most of the time at the ASMBS.
Oh, that's so funny. Yep. I was there.
Yep. Yeah. We were in the ProCare booth.
Yeah. I feel like I saw you. I feel like we may have talked there.
We probably did.
I feel like we did.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe. I was there mostly for the pre-conference because they never put the behavioral health stuff on the main conference. So we were there the days leading up to it. So, but you might have been at the, like one of the, like, the things where they serve food, which is so ironic at a bariatric thing, but sometimes the food that they serve.
Oh, yeah. Or like the open bar. You know, the one that Lap Band did.
That was awesome.
Oh, I'm sure it was.
Yeah, the dueling piano bar. It was so rad. I was so impressed.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
One thing I love though about going to ASMBS, I will have like stuff for months. I still have Bariatric Fusion. Those guys are great. I love going around. I'm like, oh, I don't need a stapler. I need chewable. Oh, you got some chewable. Oh, you got new. What did they give us last time? Digestive. Yeah. Fill me up.
Fill it up. I love it.
I have to bring a suitcase just for the stuff that I bring back.
Well, Ashlyn,
the stapler person is like, what kind of a professional are you? I'm like, clearly not a surgeon. So I don't need a giant stapler.
Yes, exactly.
Oh my goodness. Well, I was going to say, Ashlyn, I mean, we could talk to you for hours.
I'm so bad.
Hours.
No, it's good because sometimes we get people on the podcast that can't talk.
Yeah.
And you definitely can.
I know I want to deep dive with you. So we're going to have to do number 2 about alcohol. Just straight up alcohol.
Yes.
So everybody
we could do maybe like alcohol and transfer addictions, talk about some of the behavioral addictions. And we could talk too about like rage seeking, some of the more interesting ones that I've seen and DUI risk. I'll probably bring some slides that just some more like information
fully prepared. That'd be great.
We don't find any of the information boring.
No.
It's so funny because we'll talk to people and they'll be like, you'll probably find this really boring. I'm like, actually, no, we find this very interesting.
Yeah, we love it.
Because I like to know all the things.
All the details.
So, and sometimes it's so fascinating to me too, because sometimes we know there's this one great chart that was like, it's talking about gut biome change. And all we know is that the more we change your gut biome, the more weight you lose, but we have no idea what that means. We don't know what we changed. We don't know how we change it. We just found that if we took a sample and there was a huge change, you lost a huge amount of weight. And so there's like presentations on that. And at the end, I'm like, I have a question. And they're like, yes.
How?
What does that mean? How are we doing? Are we going to do, fecal transplants? Are we going to like change people? And they're like, well, we aren't there yet. But good question. That's why I love going to ASMBS. I nerd out on all of that stuff. I'm like, this is so fascinating.
It is.
Oh, yes. It is. Yeah, we're already looking forward to next year.
Well, I guess this year.
I'll be at Vegas. for, I'll have a booth for the training, but I'll also be there, in New
Orleans, right?
New Orleans, sorry. Is it New Orleans this year?
It's New Orleans this year.
Oh, good. That's better than Vegas. I thought it was in Vegas. So good. I'd rather go to New Orleans.
Awesome.
But yeah,
We'll see you there.
So, and I'll hopefully see you guys in Orlando. I'm so excited about that. You guys are coming.
Yeah,
in
February 11th. And the tickets are up for everybody right now. So that's a good segue. Don't forget, we're going on tour. We haven't left yet.
If you guys are in the East Coast area, come and see us.
Yes.
And remember, the tickets are very, very exclusive. So once the tickets are gone, they are gone.
I'm sorry, even if we know you as like a good friend, you message us. There's limited space.
There's limited space.
So once it's sold out, it's sold out. So definitely go get those. It's at oursleevelifepodcast.com. There'll be a link at the top says tour dates. Go there. We have merch that you can buy there. You can become a Patreon there. There's a button for it.
Yes.
Click on that.
Sign up for our newsletter because you do get our free ebook when you sign up for the newsletter. So, and all future stuff that has to do with JBY. If you don't know what JBY is, it's the Just Be You Bariatric Award Show.
That's right.
So make sure that you sign up for that and get that free ebook because it is pretty freaking cool.
Well, those people that sign up for the newsletter, like you guys get to know everything before everybody else does.
Yeah.
Like that's like guaranteed. So if you want to know what we're doing at all times, and then you can meet us at these random functions that we go to, you can find out before everybody else does, and then you can just show up and we'll all hang out. So do that. And then of course, YouTube. Just type in Our Sleeve Live Podcast. We're the only ones. Just hit subscribe and the bell, and you literally get an episode every single Tuesday with our lovely faces. Sometimes we have a guest and sometimes we don't. But this time we definitely did, and it was amazing.
So Mel forgot about all the details before, so she had to put it in after now that she has it all together.
That's true.
Yes.
I'm all together now.
Yes. But I do want to say a big thank you, Ashlyn, for being on, sharing all the information with us. And we will definitely schedule a number 2.
Number 2. Can
I'm just going to
give my socials?
Of course.
So everyone
And
can
we will
find
have
me.
all your socials linked below.
Plug all the way, man.
Go away. Take it away.
Your turn.
So if you are looking for my personal journey, so that's my personal IG page. That's going to be Ashlyn, ASHLYN, change the number 4, life 2012. So that's just me. You'll see me on vacation. You'll see me meal prepping. That's just me. So that's not me as a therapist. I'm not giving you any therapeutic value on that one. Probably the opposite. My advanced bariatric counseling is my local. So if you're in Florida, you're looking for bariatric therapy, advancedbariatriccounseling.com or the IG handle advanced bariatric counseling. Or if you're looking for that video on YouTube, Advanced Bariatric Counseling. If you are a therapist that are looking to learn to do bariatric assessments, you can find me on Instagram at Learn Bariatric Assessments or on my website, learnbariatric-psychological-assessments.com. And I'll give you all of that information as well. And if anyone has questions or anything, I'm an open book. I cannot give you therapeutic advice over the internet. But I could give you friendly advice and information about my journey or things that you may be struggling. So reach out to me. I am a real human being. Best part about therapists, we're also humans. And so I'm more than welcome to communicate and talk with anyone. And hopefully I'll see you all in February.
Yeah.
So,
we're so excited.
I'm so excited. Thank you so much once again. It was a pleasure talking with you.
Yes.
Like mine got blown several times. So,
Yes.
All right. We love you guys, and we will see you
next time. Bye.